And I will officially introduce and welcome Erica Hargreave from UBC on using WordPress to build an online school teaching platform and the online courses. Over to you.
Hello and good morning, everybody. This is Ella, the important creature on the session today. Just to give you a bit of a background on me, I'm a storyteller, I'm an educator, and one of the things that's really been kind of making all of that so much more affordable for me is WordPress, especially when I'm delving into building my own projects and creating some of the stuff in my imagination. And so what we're going to do is this is going to be very much a session where we're engaged with one another and where we're going to kind of go through and look at some of the things that we're all working on and building out there. So just to start off with, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I want everybody just to introduce them. Oh, of course, it's not allowing me to stop sharing my screen right now. That's really annoying. Oh, escape. There we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna take a moment, and if everybody wants to just introduce themselves, you know, a little bit about where you're from, what you're working on, if you've been building online courses or online like learning management systems or things like that, and if so, if you're wanting to and you've got a particular sort of I guess a dream of what you'd like to build. So I met Nicholas has turned his video on, so why don't we start with you, Nicholas?
Hi, so I'm Nicholas Walker. I teach ESL in Montreal at a French language junior college. And I've been using Moodle. I have my own Moodle website called labod'anglais.com. Labo d'anglais means English lab in French. And I've been working on a grammar checker and essay scoring system called the virtualwritingtutor.com. So that's what keeps me busy and helps me provide faster feedback to my students.
Nice, nice. Stephen, since you're sort of right below Nicholas, do you want to, on my screen, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. Hang on there. That's me. Well, it's early in BC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Dowd. I work at Thompson Rivers University, and I'm an instructional designer. So we're constantly designing online courses and spaces and stuff like that. Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
and
you too.
Samira?
Oops, sorry about that. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Samira, and I'm actually attending the workshop as a social media poster. I'm going to be tweeting about everything that's going on. I'm a first-year student in the educational technology program at Concordia. So far, I've completed fundamentals. The courses I've completed have been fundamentals of instructional design and fundamentals of human performance technology. And both course projects revolved around online learning. My first project was developing a training program using Zoom. And my second one was how we can improve the formative assessment strategy in primary schools to increase student academic performance when they're learning online.
Awesome, awesome. Samira, I don't know if you've been sharing the courses that you've been building out there at all, there's like, it's something I've been noticing there's a huge deficit of when students are creating open course material.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something you are interested in, I can share some sites and stuff like that where I'm doing my master's at the moment too, and I'm constantly trying to get my students or my fellow students to share their content out there because they're creating great stuff, but it sits there and goes nowhere. And so many people could use it and take advantage.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yes.
And Barbara, do you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
Absolutely not a problem. So I have a day job. I actually am an instructional designer by trade. I've got my MA from Concordia a long time ago, and I'm very passionate about learning in general, and my day job is working for the Canadian government. So I like to come to these things to feed my nerdy soul. So
Nice.
it's a pleasure for me to be here and support you all.
Thank you. Okay, so as I'm just going to present, I'll go back to my slides here for a second. And I'm going to stay I'm not going to go full screen just simply because then I can't add things to the chat and stuff like that. So I'm going to sort of stay in this version. But I was presented with a problem a number of years back, and this was before I actually started doing any online teaching, although I was sort of doing a lot of digital storytelling and was actively engaged in the digital space. And the problem was I ended up with this wonderful opportunity where I was getting to speak all around the world and to a lot of communities that kind of needed a boost up, like in their learning. They needed more opportunities presented to them, and so specifically, it started off in Egypt, just after the Arab Spring, when the country had lost a lot of opportunities because of sort of various clashes that were happening in the country at the time. And so I was there to kind of teach people in tourism how they could tell the rest of Egypt's story. So the story that went beyond Tahrir Square, of what was happening in the rest of the country with everyday people. And it hit me as I was there speaking that while it was great to get everybody really excited about change and about telling their stories in a different way digitally, they didn't really have the tools just from a single talk to actually put things into action. And so it got me starting to think, okay, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And there's got to be a way that I can kind of get these courses out to the people that need them wherever they are in the world. And so initially my sort of track with that was sort of approaching some of the post-secondary schools in Canada and pitching the courses on the things that I was speaking on around the world. And that was great. You know, I've sort of been teaching for a few different universities over the years in post-secondary schools, and sort of predominantly have always, you know, had courses at BCIT. And then, you know, I thought when we sort of put my courses online that this would, you know, allow for people in different parts of the world to be able to come in and utilize them. But I started discovering that there's another problem, and that's usually when people need the courses, it's not when they're offered in the course calendar at BCIT. Plus, for international students too, there's a much higher cost to being able to access those courses. And so I started coming to the realization that in order to be able to help the people that could really, you know, benefit from some of the materials I was building, we needed to have our own little teaching portal. And so, and there was a few things that that I realized we needed within that. And so we'd had groups that were starting to ask us about doing coaching and training for them. So I needed to have something where I could tailor things for groups. I needed something that could be blended, where I could have asynchronous options, and I could also have virtual in-person options for specific groups. I needed to have, you know, public and private group offerings, and also have some core material that was available there all the time for people to be able to join into a course asynchronously. And so I also needed it to be reasonably priced with sort of no per student cost, because a lot of these learning management systems, there's a per student cost. And if I had to deal with that, that wasn't going to allow me to create and build any free content out there and allow for some open courses. I needed it to be easy to navigate and intuitive and visually appealing, and have the ability to add multiple instructors and discussion boards, and have means for students to submit their work, and then the ability to host multiple courses on the same site that were searchable, and for where there were paid courses, like have some sort of secured payment system. So by this point in my journey, I was already a little bit of a WordPress nerd, and WordPress is something that I like the open source aspect of it. I like the community around it. The fact that the community is, it's a solidly built community that's engaged in the platform to make it grow bigger and to be further developing new features for WordPress. But it was also something that was accessible. So when I'm for some of my students where I'm teaching them how to build things, I'm by having the classroom site within WordPress, I could then also be demonstrating what I'm actually teaching. And so those were some of my needs. So if everybody wants to just take a moment and think about a project of yours or something that you might like to do, and just write down what would you like the site to be able to do? And what features would you like it to have? So if you're creating something for yourself.
I'll just remind everyone the chat is open to you, and you can go ahead and write in there. You'll find chat in the bottom of your screen. If you click on it, you'll have the little window that pops up.
And it's fine if you also want to just write it in a notebook and keep it private, just whichever way you prefer to do it. Okay, do some people want to share some of the things that they've written down on some of the things they'd like to include if they were creating, their own site?
Well, I can share if you're interested.
Yeah, I am. You had I loved your suggestion that you put in the chat there, Nicholas.
Well, thanks. So my idea is that, students end up in a class and it doesn't match their needs, or we go over things that they've already mastered and we don't focus enough on the things that they really need to work on. So I'd love it if a student could, instead of answering multiple choice or fill in the blanks, they could create texts, right? Either written text, like an email, or spoken text, or an interaction with a chatbot, a conversation. And the system would detect weaknesses and strengths in what they produce, and then design a curriculum automatically based on the resources that are available that address the students' needs in the order that would benefit them most. It's a dream, but it is possible, and all it'll take is time and money.
That's a really cool idea. I'm just on the top of my head there. I don't know if you've ever checked out the Canadian Media Fund, but they have an experimental fund. And it strikes me that might be something that they would, that you might be able to get funding through their experimental stream with. And I'm constantly looking into different funding sources for sort of creative ed tech and stuff like that. So if I think of any others, I'll figure out how to get a hold of you and send them your way. Who else is there somebody else? Samira, you look like you've written down a few things. What are your thoughts on this?
This is just based on my experience from my classes, and and also I have 2 kids in primary school. So, I've seen how everything was kind of not the first time around with remote learning. Things were a little bit all over the place, and it was a bit difficult for the teachers. So I was thinking, you know, if there was a way that the teachers could see the students' work as they are working on, let's say, their math problems, or I don't know, that would help with the in-class evaluation. And then also when dealing with younger children and the teachers want to use, you know, Kahoot or something like similar, you know, it's hard for them to go log in. If there was some type of tool that's integrated into the platform where the kids can access it right away, so they don't need their parents' help to come and log in.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions. I ran a kids summer camp last summer, and I know the some of the login issues with people's parents not being home. It took a little bit of working out. Ryan and Alicia, we haven't we didn't meet you, the two of you, earlier. Do either of you have some suggestion, like some sort of just different elements that you'd love to see included in an online learning environment, or in a site that you'd like to build for yourself? So not specifically from Alicia. And oh, Stephen, I see your hand's raised.
Oh, is it? I didn't raise it.
Oh,
but...
sorry, no, it's Ryan who's got his hand raised. Sorry, but then Ryan disappeared right after that. Oh no, he's up there.
Hey there, sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties, but I'm here now.
Okay.
I'll take that off. So for me, when it comes to, you know, building a platform for students to use, I think analytics are super important. Being able to track what the students are doing, what resources they're viewing, and that helps you kind of get a good sense of what you want your course to look like down the road and any future changes. So that's a really big one. Why I know your project's a little bit different, but that's why I like learning management systems, just because they do have a lot of analytics, almost too much analytics, to be honest. So yeah.
No. So it's amazing what you can, you know how that can kind of shine lights on. Oh, okay, there's clearly something wrong here in the course that people aren't sort of processing, whatever it is that I tried to explain in this section. Okay,
Why is someone watching my 60-minute video lecture?
Yeah, that's usually what I get when I realize that, you know, it's one of the courses I teach is social media storytelling, and you get a certain younger audience that already thinks they know it all, and you can absolutely tell when they've completely skipped all the material, like all the sort of readings, and have just hopped to the assignment. It's like, did you watch the video called "Turn My Camera Outwards"? Okay, so so one of the, hang on a sec here. So I've got this spreadsheet that I've just set up here. And so I'm just going to share it with all of you. And so basically what it's looking at is I just want everybody to write down some of the different learning management systems that you know of on there, and what are some pluses and minuses to each of them. So what do you like and what don't you like? So if everybody wants to wander over there and just start filling that in with a few of their thoughts.
Yeah, it says you have to approve our access.
Oh, does it?
Yep.
Oh, that's annoying. Okay, hang on a sec here. Okay, I'm going to add in a new link into the discussion and try that one now.
Please check the link again. I'm getting the same message. Like I need.
Okay, well, why don't we just ignore going to the sheet right now then? And what are some different, we'll just talk about it. What are some different learning management systems that you know out there? You mentioned Moodle earlier. What are some things you like about Moodle and don't like about Moodle?
Well,
Nicholas?
you mentioned open source. I'm good with that. I like that. There are an enormous number of plugins, and they're very valuable and worthwhile.
Mhm.
There's an enormous community of people using it, so developing plugins is great. It
Yeah.
is resource hungry and a bit buggy and updating, although things are getting much better than they used to be. Updating still presents some challenges. You can update the system and then your plugins are out of date. And free makes your hair fall out, as my friend likes to tell me. So I need to hire programmers sometimes to fix some of the bugs and the deficiencies in Moodle.
Yeah, yeah. I used Moodle years ago, and it was probably in a much worse state bug-wise, and that was one of my frustrating points. But it's good to hear that it's come a long way. Another learning management system, Ryan. What's one that you can think of off the top of your head?
D2L is pretty common in higher ed too.
Yep.
I used to work at the University of Waterloo, and I think that's where D2L was founded. So we're fully ingrained in the D2L mainframe. But one of the big problems with it is that it is very expensive for institutions.
Yeah, and I'm totally ingrained in D2L too. That's what I've been building all my courses on at BCIT. But the cost is the same reason why I started looking around for another solution, especially because there's a per student cost on it. And so if I wanted to have a site that was going to allow for creating open education and free free sort of education on there, as well as the paid programs, it wasn't going to work with D2L for that reason. Plus, with D2L, if I was to have my site with D2L, I would have had to have them build the site.
Mm-hmm.
They don't allow for an option where you can build your own site with their tools. Stephen, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess recently we use Moodle and WordPress at TRU quite extensively, and Moodle's great in a lot of ways, but it's just the look of it is never great, right? No matter what you do to it, it never looks that slick.
Super dated.
Yeah, it's like it's functional, but it's interesting because thinking back, now that you mentioned it, and I'm thinking about past ones I've used. I was a high school teacher in a former life, and there's so many different levels of management system in that area, and much less standardized. And there's things like Edmodo and Schoolology that are like free, and you don't host as much content on them. They're almost like social media for education, right? And then there's like more professional ones. I remember we used one called It's Learning, which is a European piece, and it's quite good. And it's, you drag blocks, but it's, again, you have to pay for it. It's a little bit more D2L-ish, and it hosts content. Yeah, and then there's one that a student once created, like a grade 10 or 11 student, that's used kind of internationally, called ManageBack, for students and teachers doing the IB certificate. Yeah, cool. And with some of those, where do you see, like, what are some, like, you mentioned some of the advantages, where do you see disadvantages of the various ones? Well, I think it just depends on what you need it for, right? Like, and I think one of the things that are missing from a lot of the LMS that we build now is that the main focus is just to host content, right? Rather than starting with places for students to interact and build stuff. Yeah, and that's where it needs to grow, right? Yeah. So. Yeah, and that's like with the solution I'm working on right now. That's one of the areas that I'm not happy with it yet. Like, I mean, there's lots that I need to change about it, but that's one of the big ones, especially with and I don't know if you guys have been running into this, but with discussion boards, when they're not in a secure system like a university, your sites get onslaughted with sort of hackers and spammers.
And so every single time I open up the discussion boards, I'm like, I see this slew of sort of hackers trying to get into the site, which has been a bit of a pain in the ass and has meant I've had to kind of look for all sorts of different other options. Samira and Alicia, do either of you have some you know, sort of other LMSs that you've kind of experimented with?
For me, no, I've only worked with Moodle and as a student, so
Yeah.
I don't have the other side. I don't have experience on the other side.
Yeah. Although I have to say, you know, your experience as a student with these is huge as well, because you're the one that's actually, you know, kind of tinkering and sort of seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So Alicia says, yes, I agree. The biggest problem with LMS is she's sort of reiterating some of what you mentioned there, Stephen. So for myself, when we went to go build the site we'd been talking about, and it sort of changed over the years, we started realizing that we wanted to kind of create what Stephen's touching on here was basically a community for different storytellers, and a community where they could interact and where they could build together and where they could share ideas and make connections and partnerships, and ultimately where at the end of the day, you know, we can all learn from each other. And so I was being extremely stubborn because I wanted to build the site myself. So with that stubbornness, I stuck with WordPress, and I kept trying different renditions of WordPress for this. So if anybody's tried and experimented with WordPress for building sites, I think it was Stephen who mentioned this. It was either Stephen or Ryan who mentioned this earlier. You can have all different levels. So you can have really, really polished stuff, and you can have just, you know, kind of where you're designing the site to teach one course. And so, hang on a sec here, where am I? The reason why I was being so stubborn about WordPress is for the reasons of affordable, the healthy community of developers. I could build it myself, and so that I can teach our instructors how to build their courses within it, and give them like the ability to tinker themselves. And I like its flexibility. So when we're kind of looking at WordPress options, you've got the option of, there's learning management system plugins, there's learning management themes out there, and then there's transforming your site into a learning management system through design. And so I've got 4 different examples here, and I'll put these in the chat, that are all 4 different, you know, they're all designed in very different ways with WordPress. And what I want you guys to each do is to take a few minutes, take a look at each of them, write down what you like about them, what you don't like about them, and what you do differently. You'll see that one of the sites is mine, and please don't be afraid to write the things you don't like, because as I've already mentioned, it's still very early days, and I still realize there is so much that we need to change and do differently about it. But it's this is its current rendition. So I'll put these put the links into the chat here. Hang on a sec. So in two of the examples there are full university courses, and the other two are both community sites.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just looking at your story to go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, got bumped out of where I was. And where it says courses, and then there's a series of courses that obviously aren't your courses.
No, they're all, the majority of them they're actually all our courses.
Oh, really? Like piano?
Okay, so you'll see, it's actually, since we started building the site, we finally, I built a few renditions over the years of it, and I was just about to give up on WordPress because a lot of the learning management system themes were not really working properly, and anytime you do an update, it would crash the entire site. And so I decided to give it one last attempt at the beginning of the pandemic, and I found, which I'm going to show you guys in a few minutes, I found this learning management system that seems to have an invested community behind it called LearnDash. And so we started building that, and we built it initially for a group of, of all things, a cheerleading group that wanted a course on storytelling at the beginning of the pandemic. And as we were kind of looking around at all our artist friends freaking out and wanting, because they didn't have any work, we thought, okay, well, we basically ended up realizing that rather than just sort of sticking with where we'd originally thought we were going on Story to Go, was to open it up to other artists, to create and build courses on there that have an artistic slant. And so the piano teaching is one of the teachers that works for me on our, we have the film industry knows I have a teaching license, and because we do work in film, they're constantly asking me for teachers. So I have some teachers that work on film sets. And so she was the piano teacher is one of our teachers in the film industry. And that's also why you'll see there's a bunch of courses.
I kind of see now, if I go to the third, like the community, that I probably get to the site that actually has or the page that actually has your courses on it. I think I was going left to right, and I read our story, and then I ended up on the storytogo.ca page.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Story to Go, that's kind of the digital magazine that's sort of behind everything. And then it links to a community that we've got on Facebook at the moment. Yeah, so this is one of the sort of the growing beast problems with Story to Go at the moment, is because of the pandemic, it ended up solving a variety of needs. So like one need is because we work with the film industry, has been that the film industry has needed virtual teaching throughout the year too. So we started to launch, sort of little online learning hubs for the film industry. And then we were having BCIT asking us to build camps for them. And because it was easier to run the camps through our system than it was through BCIT's system, because of approvals for A00 numbers and stuff like that, BCIT has been running their camps from our site. So, and then in the whole mix, we started, because I'm doing my master's at the moment, and I'm the only one in my master's program that has a site where people can can build out open educational courses and actually get some eyes to their courses, some of the teachers in the program started asking me if they could build on our site.
That's a lot
So
going on. A lot
yeah,
going on.
exactly. And it's one of the problems there. One of the things I want to do is I kind of want to build it now more out like kind of like a little bit of a school where we have different sections to it. Like we have a sort of, you know, a kids camp section to the site. And then under there, it's listed all the kids courses. We have a section to the site that would be for educators, and has like different tools for helping them to teach online and things like that. We'd have a site section that's, you know, for our main courses, which are our arts courses, like in storytelling courses. And then we will also want to have a wellness studio on there. And that was also sparked by the beginning of the pandemic and sort of seeing people spiraling. And also the fact that Lori, sort of one of our partners in the project, has become a bit of a yogi. So she likes building all the wellness stuff on there. Yeah, but that is one of our problems that I need to deal with. But, you know, part of the thing too is it's, the financing on the site is coming in from very weird and unexpected places, like cheerleaders asking us to develop a course for them, and the film industry at the moment with all these sort of online virtual schooling needs, and then some grants I've got at the moment to be building some open source content on the site as well. Which actually those ones probably do fit in with what the main intention of the site was.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's weird how 1 year can change what, you know, you'd been kind of plodding along on, but hadn't, you know, properly launched yet, to something to a much, you know, a beast that's growing all sorts of different arms on it.
Yeah.
So just sort of pulling everybody else back in, just because I'm looking at the time. What are some people's thoughts in sort of going through those different renditions of using WordPress to build courses? What did people like that they saw out there? What didn't people like? You didn't like having to click through to see a course, Alicia. So you wanted to be able to just arrive directly on the course? Oh, you prefer having a clear menu. Okay. Samira, as a student, what sort of appealed to you and what didn't appeal to you?
Actually, I was just typing. I appreciate the versatility of WordPress, as you can, when you compare the different sites, you can see how the information is presented differently. I personally like the story to go because it's very visual. It has all the information you need with less text. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just like the layout and the ease of use of story to go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think unfortunately when you're looking through at UBC's courses, that's using the UBC version of WordPress, which is, I find, painful. It's painful from a developer's perspective too, because it's very limiting. And just, yeah, unfortunately not as visual. Ryan? Oh, sorry, Stephen. Yeah.
No, Ryan,
You're
go
going to
ahead.
say something?
Oh, I was just going to echo that. I really like the Story to Go website as well. It looks really sleek, and I'm not a WordPress developer, and I don't create anything on WordPress, so it's eye-opening for me to see just how nice it can look. So yeah.
It took a lot of looking for me to find something that would work that way. I did have one of the previous renditions I tried before this one looked even sleeker, but it wasn't functional. It kept crashing. Like anytime there was a WordPress update,
Yeah.
which happens often. What were you gonna say, Stephen?
Oh yeah, just I mean, I think it's true. I think that, well, a couple of things, right? I think that the homepage with buttons makes a lot of sense, because when you're on that kind of hub, you're just trying to figure out where you're supposed to go to get what you want. And so a bunch of text, you don't want to have to read through it. You want, it's like really should just be sending you where you want to go in a clear manner. So I think that was a good point. And the other thing is a reminder that, I mean, that's a lot of reasons why you use LMS, is because you can standardize a little bit the way things are organized, and students can get used to that. And we all want to build our own awesome thing that's unique and creative. But then no matter what it is, and no matter how well it's thought out, there's always like a learning curve of figuring out how to navigate that new site or that new space, no matter what it is. So
Yeah,
it's a reminder.
Yeah, and to be honest too, that was one of the things I liked about this LearnDash plugin, because I don't know if when you go through it, it takes you through in a way that students are often used to sort of seeing from online courses. Where once you're in there, it gives you things like telling you how much of the course you've completed, and where when you get to the bottom of the page, you can head to the next lesson and things like that. Oh, I'm realizing that I'm sort of going through this and I'm not screen sharing, so I'll just screen share, show you what I was just going through by myself. So hang on a sec here. So you'll see this is I'm in one of the courses in here, and within the course, as I sort of scroll down and enter the course, it gives me the information like, okay, this is how much of the course I've completed so far. I scroll down through the lesson, and at the bottom of the lesson, it's got, something that points me on to the next lesson. And so navigationally, it's been one of the things that I've liked about it, just because it's a bit more what students are used to seeing. I am having, and you can see right here, this is like kind of the back end of what this looks like. LearnDash does cost me a certain amount of money each year. I just paid it, and I think it works out to about $300 American. But $300 American for LearnDash is a lot less than what I'd be paying using other learning management systems. I've also built the site on a paid professional theme, but I don't actually pay any more money for it because it's a StudioPress theme, and I bought a business license for it a number of years ago for like $200, and it's given me a lifetime to all of their new themes as they build. There's so sort of in going through and building this, one of the nice things is, and I did a lot of research this time around into really looking at what sort of learning management plugins and learning management themes there were out there for WordPress that were a little bit more robust, that had a developer community behind them, that was sort of constantly building forward. And it seems like right now LearnDash is rising above the other ones online, and they've been great too. Like they've got a Facebook community for people using it, and people respond back to you right away when you're having an issue. And one of the nice things too is that is that they're also actively kind of watching that community and finding ways to promote the different sites using LearnDash, which was great when we were just first starting out. So there's good things about this and there's bad things about this. One of the bad things is, and I'm so used to working in an educational space where I build with a team and we build and come up with ideas and share together. And where I give people the capability of building their own course. This has been built from the standpoint of controlling the teachers and the courses. And so I have to actually put the shells together for all of my teachers' courses for them to be able to go into and change, as opposed to like them just being able to log in and start building a course. But there is all sorts of like, you know, really great things on here. Like it has, you know, an area where for the teachers that are building paid courses, that, you know, actually has it so that when we take in money on the site, that the percentage that goes to the teacher is automatically sent to the teacher, which is really cool. I'm also doing some experiments right now with the web monetization standard. And that's been really cool because the plugin that we've got on the site for them also allows me, for anybody who's building open educational courses, if it's not something we've paid for, but they've just wanted to build an open educational course that we're sort of we're hosting on the site, it allows them to put in a payment pointer. So that they, the way the web monetization standard works is you basically just get money from people visiting your site and they don't have to necessarily pay for that. Although you can put gated communities up. And so it's a nice, lovely perk that you know, this sort of being on WordPress enables. I'm having a hell of a time at the moment, and you can see, I know Ryan was into stats. There are areas in here where you can get to the different stats on the different courses, and it gives all those things that, you know, a lot of instructors are used to, like quizzes and certificates and stuff like that. I don't use that sort of section myself all that much, and it, you know, also things like course surveys and reviews and feedback. The big problem I'm running into is finding a way to put discussion boards on where the students can like, you know, host their own personalities and engage with each other, as well as with the instructors, that doesn't cause an onslaught of hackers trying to access the students through our discussion boards. So if anybody has a solution for that, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, does anybody have any questions on what we're building here? I know that one of the things that I've started to build for our instructors on there, and if there's interest, I'm happy to build it as kind of an open educational course out there. But if anybody's interested in like an open course on developing with LearnDash, let me know, because I'm, you know, I can kind of do a spin-off of that from what I've been developing for our instructors to teach on there. Thoughts, questions?
Awesome job, Erica. It's really pretty cool stuff. Yeah, it's all those links you shared. I definitely like the story to go probably the best, but yeah, it's just opened my mind to using WordPress. I know at the University of Toronto where I work right now, our office's website is run through a WordPress, and we're actually switching out of it to Drupal 8 right now. And I was always under the impression that WordPress was mostly used for things like websites for, university departments and stuff like that. But there's obviously a lot more functionality. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's sometimes it takes looking around for that functionality, but the beauty is once you get into like, some of the developer forums and stuff like that, and you start asking questions, even if you're very green around the edges, there are developers in there that are just really happy to help. And there have been stages along the way where we've actually had them kind of go on and analyze part of our site and, say, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's how to fix that bug.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions?
Well, that's great. Thank you, Erica. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you guys for joining me this morning. It especially, I know that the BC crowd on here. I'm not sure if that's just Stephen and I. We probably all just rolled out of bed recently.
I know. I was trying to listen to the keynote and get my kids ready for school. It's like impossible.
Well, you did much better than me by getting up. And well, I technically probably was up in time for the keynote, but because I'm doing three sessions today, I was still working on my
You're doing 3 sessions?
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to do 3 sessions today, but they ended up having to switch something around. So then they sort of came back to me and they're like, "Would you mind?" I'm like,
What?
"Okay, it'll just be one of those days."
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What are you doing your master's in?
I'm doing it in educational technology. So with a particular kind of bent towards like storytelling,
Yeah, that's cool.
and looking at sort of applying educational technology to different forms of storytelling.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everyone for participating and thank you all for attending. And I encourage everyone to find some more fabulous sessions and maybe Erica again for another 2 times later on today. I'm going to stop the recording. So if you would like to stay on here and continue chatting, it's totally fine.